Hello, good afternoon. Loria. We're going to do Siddhartha. We're going to do 2 chapters. Beside the river and the ferryman. The ferryman, we're going to stop right before the incident with Kamala, shall we say. Alright, let's get cracking. Beside the river, or as I think it should be called, down by the river. I shot my baby. Neil Young. Check it out if you don't know that. Interestingly enough, right, let's remember to, I guess, quick outline. We're going to talk about suicide, we're going to talk about Govinda, we're going to talk about introspection in this chapter, right? Let's remember that Hermann Hesse is an author who struggled with his, mental demons, went in and out of therapy several times, all kinds of depressing suicidal thoughts, never able to really have a solid relationship. This is kind of annoying me, right? So this is a man who has faced his demons. And when you're listening, or when you're reading an author who flirts with those things, it's almost like when you read Hemingway's passages about suicide, they ring a little bit deeper. Siddhartha considers suicide. He says, this is on 75, wanting to die, blah, 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 you've been unable to achieve this thing, right? This is all only a moment of flash, right? So these suicidal thoughts come up, and he's like, I wish I was dead. But then he kind of collapses, goes to sleep. It's interesting, though, to think that suicide is considered, and that's something that you should, at least address if you're doing this in a group. Kind of a serious topic, obviously. Anyway, he wakes up and sees his old friend, Govinda, and I think it's kind of clever when Govinda's leaving. He says, goodbye, Govinda, and he's like, how'd you know me? And he's like, I'm Siddhartha, we were pals, bosom kin, what do they call that? Diaper kin? Whatever. Bosom buddies? Who knows? Back in the day kind of stuff, right? So they don't recognize one another, and Siddhartha says 2 kind of interesting things. He says, you were judging my transitory appearance, right? When he's like, I don't recognize you, he's like, I'm a pilgrim. He's like, you are? You look like a rich guy. And he's like, well, I was a rich guy, I am a pilgrim. So it's like, was and I am. Obviously this is a new epiphany for Siddhartha. We're going to get to that, actually. So, right, I was rich. Right. I said I am on a pilgrimage. And indeed, I am a pilgrim. So it's kind of like, yeah, so what? I'm wearing these nice clothes. Yeah, well, yesterday I was whining and dining and boozing away. Now I'm this. Govinda leaves, right? And as he leaves, right, Siddhartha watched him walk off. He still loved him, this faithful friend, this apprehensive one. Continue. He loved everything and was filled with joyous love for all he saw. And he realized that what ailed him so before was that he had not been able to love nothing and no one. Aha, right? That brings us to that point. He's always talking about these child people they can love, they attach importance to their lives, and they're jealous of that. Perhaps he does love Govinda. Perhaps love is a more complex thing that can just be said yes or no. Perhaps this is a different kind of love for Govinda than he had for others. Perhaps he is in a, he realizes, yes, I can love. Or perhaps another possibility is that he's in this kind of, marvelous, like everything is so great, kind of like sleep or like new thing mode, right? And he's going to love anything and everyone at that point. He goes on to think and think and think. This is kind of an introspective section. He points out that he had to, I had to be a fool to find Atman within me. I had to sin to be able to live again. And he's like, I had to learn my own mistakes. I had to be that kid that put my hand on the stove 10 times before I was like, this isn't good. Not everyone's like that. It's not the bestest trait to be like that, but quote, Chili Pepper's destruction leads to a very rough road, but it also breeds creation. Anyway, how good it is to be free, right? And he's like, I love my life so much in this moment. And that brings us back to kind of an interesting point. And this isn't the first time Siddhartha has just totally changed his life. And he's like, now everything's great, everything's awesome, And so maybe he's right. Maybe he is at least, once again, listening to his inner voice, as he starts to point out. But maybe there's like that ADHD, like I have to be in a new place, right? It's almost like, and I'm kind of a prime example of this, but a lot of people do this, like, oh, I want to go live in Arizona, now I want to go to Colorado, now I want to go to California, oh, this place sucks, let me go to Mexico, let me go here, let me go there. we can kind of globetrot around without dealing with the underlying issues, without really looking at the character. It's easy to be kind of enthralled by a city in the first couple months, not necessarily a couple years later, right? Anyway, on 82 is a reference that here's the songbird once again. After all those years, once you had a good idea, you did something, you heard the bird singing in your breast and followed it. So again, that inner voice, that consciousness, call it what you will, the ferryman. We get to meet Vasudeva. I'm going to talk about Taoism a little bit in this kind of inner stirring, right? He goes to the river and he feels. He did not understand, he did not grasp it, he felt only an inkling stirring within him, distant memories, divine voices. It's pretty interesting, right? Distant memories, divine voices. And he's a little bit nostalgic, he's been to this spot before, I don't know if you remember that in the book. He's crossed this river, now he's coming back over it. And he hears that divine voice, and I think that's like the oneness of the river, which we're going to get into, don't worry, we'll cover that all over the place. Right, he meets Vasudeva, brings him across, and he's like, hey, I want to be your apprentice. Right. Couple points about him. It says he's mastered the art of listening. That's good. I like that. The art of listening. It's easier to talk than to listen. Prime example number one. So Vasudeva is this kind of like jolly guy at the ferry who goes back and forth. At least our impression is now initially. We're going to find out later he, loved a wife and she died, etc. But he seems kind of just like a happy-go-lucky, guy that ferries people across. Lives a very simple but content life. He's simple but he's content. He says to Siddhartha, listen, I will just learn from the river. And that's all I've done. So they're kind of like removed from society, which is like Taoism, right? Taoism says that if you want to be at peace with the world, stop trying to advance, stop trying to get ahead, be one with nature and kind of withdraw from society. 9 days out of 10, I think to myself, damn, I'd rather be hanging out with horses in Mexico and not dealing with any nonsense. But, you either confront life or you run to a beautiful place and just chill. I mean, I'm not going to say one is better than the other, right? Career advancement versus living in tranquility and living in calmness. And having that as kind of your main goal in a beautiful place. Who's to say which one is better? Anyway, Siddhartha kind of posts up and he's like, this is going to be a good place. It reminds me of, there's a good Railroad Earth song called Old Man in the Land. It's kind of like the days here, I like the nights here, here I will lay me down. The years passed and no one counted them. That's pretty cool. And then, Siddhartha's becoming more and more like Vasudeva. So, Kamala arrives in a little bit different fashion than other times. We're going to get to that next time. We talked about suicide, Govinda, introspection, Vasudeva, and random song calls. So, andale pues, send your comments and questions, etc. Not write your papers, but